All right, good evening, everyone. It's 5:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to the first meeting where we'll be discussing economic development as well as tourism. So if you're joining us for the first time this evening, my name is Malini Sims. I'm a principal planner with the town of Oro Valley. Myself and Michael Spaeth, who's also a principal planner with the town, will be facilitating tonight's meeting. We are joined with other staff members. This includes Paul Melcher, our Community and Economic Development Director, Margie Adler, our Economic Development Specialist, and Crystal Frank, who's our Destination Marketing Manager. So the purpose of having us all here is we are here to support you all in your discussion this evening. Before we get started, I do want to make sure that everyone who is joining us for the first time has had an opportunity to introduce themselves. So if this is your first meeting, if you'd please raise your hand so we could have you introduce yourself to the group. All right, Hal, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi, Melanie. So I'm new to this group. I actually have participated in the development group, but this is my first time here. I've been in Oro Valley for about 7 years. I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2 terms, and I'm a retired local government planner. Worked in local government for about 40 years.
Great, thank you, Hal, and thanks for joining this group. All right, is there anyone else who this is your first time with the economy group, resident working group? All right, so I just have a brief presentation to go over some background information, and then we'll jump right into the discussion tonight. All right, so for those of you who have participated either in the finance meetings or previous working group meetings, some of this may be information that you've seen before, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands the purpose of tonight's meeting. So tonight, our purpose is really to gather additional guidance and ideas related to the priorities that residents shared last year. The guidance provided last year, as well as the legal requirements and your feedback from this evening, will be used to formulate draft goals, policies, and actions. I want to thank everyone who did respond to the discussion questions posed online because you helped set the agenda tonight. So we'll be going over workforce and employer attraction and retention, increasing customer base, as well as filling empty storefronts, and then as well as we'll wrap up with tourism. Again, the task for a 10-year plan is making sure that those goals, policies, and actions are prescriptive enough to address resident priorities and expectations, but broad enough to stay relevant over 10 years. And the comments that we hear from tonight will be consolidated, again, and paired with what we've heard last year, as well as legal requirements to create those goals, policies, and actions. So tonight really is about harvesting more information from you all and getting more ideas, whereas the next meeting will focus more on building consensus on the draft goals, policies, and actions.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Emmanuel, I'm going to ask you to please mute yourself for a moment, please.
Noise thing. And then I got much. Okay, 72. Okay. JJ Johnson, and then audio. Select the speaker.
All right. Oops, one moment, folks. Okay, so I also want to thank everyone for taking the time to take the poll to help us schedule a third meeting to talk about town finances. Looking at the poll, the majority of you were free on Wednesday, April 9th. So that is when that meeting will be scheduled. Similar to all the meetings, I'll send a reminder out before the meeting as well as information to help you prepare for that discussion on April 9th. I also wanted to let folks know about the development resident working group. That meeting is I know there's a lot of folks in this meeting who are interested in development as well as annexation and growth. So you're welcome to attend these meetings as well. They are scheduled for April. There's a few in-person opportunities where we'll be looking at the land use map and then an online meeting at the end of the month. All these meetings are online on ovpathforward.com, so you could always get more information, not just about your group's meetings, but any other groups that you're welcome to attend. Right, so before we dive into the discussion tonight, I just want to give a quick overview of what we heard from residents over the past year through a statistically projectable survey. What this means is that the percentages represent all Oro Valley adults. So when you see numbers like 58 or 64%, those really represent about 25,000 adults in Oro Valley. So looking at employment and workforce, folks did want OV to be described in the future as for its employment opportunities, and one of the highest priorities under economic development was workforce attraction and retention. And then looking at the types of economic development or employment opportunities people want to see in Oro Valley, entrepreneurship, more medical health places, as well as research tech park and small office complexes were prioritized. As many of you know, we also conducted a survey with existing businesses. And when we asked them what factors are needed to help attract workers to relocate to Oro Valley, their top choices were the cost of housing as well as amenities. So having housing available and affordable for their employees, but also their employees want things to do. If they move here, they need access to schools as well as other job opportunities for their significant others. When asking those business employers how we can help expand or attract more employers, their responses were more access to freeways, having available land with proper zoning, and then having enough skilled and educated workforce in the pipeline for them to hire. Now, kind of shifting over to business attraction and tourism, people do want to see that there's more things to do in Oro Valley. Specifically, a lot of people called out having more restaurants and retail. That was one of the most comments we heard when we were out in the community, but also when it was asked about suggested changes in Oro Valley. Filling empty storefronts, having and businesses having lack of customers were also suggestions that were raised through the survey. Looking at tourism, residents prioritize having more visitor and tourist attractions as well as hotels and resorts and supporting those that are existing in Oro Valley. Again, from the business survey, when we asked existing businesses how the town could help increase their customer base, the main responses were assisting through advertising or campaigns like Shop Local programs and having housing that supports more professionals and younger families to increase the amount of people and customers they could have. Looking at filling vacant storefronts, there was some suggestions to help with lowering costs and fees, as well, again, having more people and density around to support those local businesses. Our Community Economic Development Group, they also interviewed leisure travel groups and some of the opportunities they found through that process to help with tourism was creating anchor institutions, having more promotion, and then also focusing on different leisure types like sports and outdoors, as well as having those creative and creating those authentic experiences to make Oro Valley a destination. And we are going to be using the whiteboard this evening, so I just want to remind folks that if you're having troubles viewing the whiteboard or being able to see the font size, you can always use the navigation menu in the lower right-hand corner. You can zoom in, zoom out, and pan around using the hand, and that won't change the view for anyone else. And then lastly, I do want to remind folks of the ground rules that everyone agreed to during the kickoff event. These really help us make sure that we're treating each other with respect, but also having an efficient and productive meeting. As usual, we have a good amount of ground to cover this evening, so I just ask folks to stay focused on the column that we're asking for comments or questions or discussion about, but so that we can make sure we get through everything this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn over the evening to Michael Spaeth, who will walk us through our discussion this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Malini. Hopefully you can hear me okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Malini's counterpart on the current planning side of the house, a principal planner as well. I'm more used to doing facilitation in the council chambers with lots of folks in there as opposed to on the computer here. So I appreciate everybody's patience and humility as we get through this, but I appreciate the opportunity. So just to get started, I want to thank everybody for doing your homework ahead of tonight's meeting. Your responses, as you can see on the screen here, I realize they're hard to read here, but we'll zoom in, have been categorized for our discussion this evening, and we will get through all of this information tonight, but we do want to, again, as Malini said, I want to keep people focused on the column that we're discussing at that time. We're going to start with the purple category on the left, which focuses on workforce or employment attraction, by first defining high quality employment and then talking about what is needed to attract workers and employers like housing, transportation, schools, amenities, and such. We'll then go to the purple column to discuss specific aspects for attracting businesses by increasing the customer base and filling empty storefronts. We'll talk about research, business outreach, zoning, and increasing the population or amount of visitors. Then lastly, we'll wrap up with tourism and discuss existing characteristics to promote and ideas to increase tourism through arts, tournaments, working with resorts, and targeted marketing. So let's go ahead and get started with the purple column and by defining the types of high quality employers. So just as Malini mentioned, as a reminder, if you need to zoom in on your device, use the navigation menu at the lower right-hand corner to adjust your view. I'll give everyone a moment to read through the comments in the purple headings here. And please raise your hand if you have any questions or would like to elaborate on any comments that you made or other thoughts on how to define high quality employers. We'd like to hear everyone's voice this evening, but if you don't like to participate that way and would prefer, you can also add your responses to the chat, which Malini will be watching as we move through the evening tonight. So let's go ahead and give everybody a moment to read through those comments. Hi, Don. I see you raised your hand. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment. Don, you'll have to make sure you unmute yourself on your end if possible.
There we go. I have to be very cautious about keeping my mic open and closed.
Sure, no problem.
The first thing that crossed my mind is that I had a difficult time trying to wrap my arms around what is really meant by high quality employers. That was there discussion at some level? I mean, is Oro Valley Hospital considered a high quality employer? Is Home Depot a high quality employer? Is there anything there to give us some guidance on that? Thank you.
Sure. No, great question, Don. Thank you. And actually, even though I'm not going to directly answer your question first, we do have some folks here who can do that. I'd like to actually turn it back to the group first and see if there's anybody here participating, because of course we're here to hear your comments and thoughts on this. What do you guys think meets that definition for a high quality employer? Rosa? Looks like your hand was up first. Go right ahead.
So, thank you. So I was thinking that when you were asking this question, you were talking about like maximizing our tech park, you know, biotech and engineering, or the medical, the vet school, you know, those types of employment opportunities that where an employer would want to be able to sell Oro Valley to like a highly educated or highly sought after type employee base. And that's why I listed the things that I did that were, you know, we're a safe community. We offer a variety of really nice schools now. And, you know, we're a picturesque setting. We're 40 minutes away from a tier 1 research university with a medical school, a top-notch engineering school, which even has, you know, a space exploration aspect, a top-notch business school in that university. And we're an hour and a half away from the 5th largest city by population. And we have a low income tax. These are all factors, I think, that help us attract good, you know, high-end employers that can then sell Oro Valley to its employees. That's how I thought about it.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, that's a perfect lead in. JJ, saw your hand went up. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Michael. I'd add it's great to see you and Margie and Paul and
You as well.
yeah, obviously we want employers who pay hopefully a very good wage with employee benefits that won't pollute the environment, that are locationally compatible with the other companies and employers we have. And my personal preference is those employers who are on a growth path in a sustainable industry sector that would just add value to the existing business community that we have. Thank you.
Okay, no, excellent. That's great. And I see Sarah Kaiser in the chat added, high quality employer is someone who's important that they offer pay which is sufficient to afford and live in Oro Valley comfortably, which, yep, absolutely. So, Dawn, your first question, I believe I recognized your voice. I think, is that Dawn Cox? Did that answer your question? Did that give some shape to what the group here kind of thinks when they hear that term, high quality employer?
Yeah, yes, it did. And which brings me to my second point is, it seems as though we already have those kinds of employers here. And so are we thinking that we need more of those same types of things, but physically located within the confines of the town of Oro Valley? Is that what we're saying?
I'm going to punt that one to Miss Sims, who politely has her hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Spade. So, yeah, just to give a little additional context, we actually got the term high quality from the community. They use that term throughout a lot of the comments, and when we actually took out or put the guiding principles out to the community for comment, some of them actually added that through of like, hey, let's specify high quality. So all of your help to help further define that is really helpful. And then in terms of do we want more? That is what we heard from the feedback last year is, yeah, we do have some, but we can always to try to get more so that we can have better pay for jobs also in Oro Valley.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Miss Sims. Hal, you were next up.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I think, you know, from a purely selfish perspective for the town, I would think you want employers that are likely to bring revenue into the town. And since the town is largely reliant on sales tax revenue, you want employers, probably more retail employers that are going to bring sales tax revenue in. Now, if it's a service employee or more of an industry type employer, you know, if they bring in folks that are going to live in Oro Valley that have a high salary level, I think that'd be great too. The problem, based on the information I saw, is that over 80% of the employees in this town live elsewhere. So, you know, how do we get people who work here to live here? I think that's a part of the question.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. I think that's foreshadowing for our next couple columns. Thank you. Good to see you too. Mr. Farash, Richard, you were up next.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes,
I'll
yes,
leave
just
you to
fine.
do that, Michael. Yeah, I wrote a treatise on this, which got posted up here, because I think we already have, and I think Don said it, but we have a lot of high quality jobs. First of all, I want to point out we're primarily a retail community. We can dream, but we're primarily a retail community. And we have a lot of people in retail that work here, and a lot of people think a high quality job is a lot more than just the money you earn. It's the quality of the employer itself and how they treat people. And if you go to Trader Joe's and you talk to a crew member, you know, those are happy people and like it. They can't afford to live in Oro Valley. That's the problem. And I don't see us as suddenly getting in 6 high-tech companies are going to pay $500,000 a year to people so they can live here. So I do think that's our huge challenge. So we have a lot of high quality jobs, but if we're talking about let's get white collar jobs in here that pay a lot of money, I think that's an entirely different discussion. So that's kind of, if you want to read what I have to say, it's on the left, but kind of a treatise on it. But I think that kind of summarizes my thoughts.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. JJ and Don, I see you guys got your hand up again. Real quick, I'm going to let Tony D'Angelo go because he hasn't had an opportunity to comment yet. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Great, thank you. You know, it's similar to what Richard said. When I think of high quality employers today, a number of them will base a facility, but not necessarily bring in physical employees. You know, there'd be a lot of virtual jobs, and you know, so is that in the mix as well? They may never even, you know, step foot in Oro Valley. And so we have to understand if we're trying to get I don't think we're going to get factories, but we're going to, the biomedical seems to be, there's research and work being done. So therefore, like Roche has 1,800 employees, but there's other companies that may have a data center with a few folks running that, but everybody else is outside the community. So, and to the point about retail is going to generate sales tax. A business just being here and employing people, unless, I don't think we have a business tax that we're charging folks on their revenues or payrolls, but that would be a factor in terms of clarifying the definition of quality.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I think all those things are definitely worth keeping in mind when you have that broad of a question for sure. So, Dawn, did you have something to add real quick?
Yes, if in fact we're going to try to attract high quality employers, they of course are going to want to bring in, if they're an existing organization, they're going to want to bring in some of their current high quality employees. And we need two things for that to happen. One, we have a housing shortage in this community if in fact we're going to grow our population. We simply don't have the land on which to build very many houses. And we have nothing, absolutely nothing in the pipeline coming on board to have houses for the places for the people to live. So it's two things that we need, and we're extremely short of both of them. That is people, and that is land on which to put those people. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Don. And JJ, one last thought there.
Thank you. If we're still on employers, you have a lot of need in any economy for business services, engineering. I could go on and on with the list of talent that's needed to drive the business and industry we already have and will be coming in. And we can do these things without building a lot of new buildings, because a lot of the people already live in the region and they could be encouraged to do business directly in Oro Valley as freelancers, part of the gig economy, doing it from home and attracting net new business opportunities and capital into the community. In fact, I believe the future is a lot about freelance. I know we're getting into the workforce end of it too, but you think about the competition for talent, and Roche and some of the bigger companies are proving that out. People want to live here and work here, and that is also true in retail as well. Thank you for letting me have that one last thought about that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, obviously we're kind of starting to flow over into some of the other columns, but that's okay. So, and yeah, Bill, Rodman, go right ahead. I see you raised your hand there.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I think to hang on to what Don said, the whole idea of growth in our community is across the board an issue. And whether or not we want to encourage growth, so that whether it be annexation to the west or Arroyo Grande to the north, or the limited number that's already out there, but it's very difficult today to develop, and especially affordable housing. So I would only suggest that we be sure that we're looking at not just a wish list, but rather a reality list. And that also brings me to another thought. And I'm not sure I saw it here, but should we be encouraging retail to somebody mentioned retail before, or something that pays taxes? We seem to be able to get all sorts of healthcare things that pay no taxes at all to to the town, to support the town. And they're great because we have customers for those people. But we also need to be looking at ones who are actually selling merchandise or selling a taxable product. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much. Well, so obviously we started to kind of blur over into the line on, I think, yeah, one of the big question marks moving forward as it impacts economic development and attracting these high quality employers, right, is the housing. Housing stock, housing availability, different options. If we move along and focus on that category, I know some folks have already kind of started to touch on that issue. Is there anything in this category or this column folks would like to add or elaborate on as it relates to impacting economic development? Hal? Yep, please go right ahead.
Well, I'd just like to note that the development group has already had a fairly prolonged discussion about this issue and what kind of housing we want in Oro Valley, where it should be. Obviously, we need more affordable housing, but the amount of land we have available for development of that kind of housing is pretty limited. So we just got to make sure that we maximize the opportunities we have. It's not an easy thing to address, and it's going to be a problem going forward.
Okay, yep. Bill, go right ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned this just a minute ago, so excuse me for reiterating it. We have very little land available, but we have land available, but most of it is surrounded or in residential areas. So affordable housing becomes very difficult to get through. It has a reputation that it doesn't deserve in what we're talking about here, what the rents would be, etc. However, we do have 885 acres to the west of town, which in fact, if we annex it, we have control then of that zoning, and we can start to understand where an employer could come or where an employee could live in close proximity to their employer. So that also fits in with the trying to attract employers. They have to be able to build something, or at least be able to open in an area that could get passed through the whole process of zoning and council. So I just don't want us to lose track of the fact that it's out there. And I'm hoping, when I was on council, we were moving very hard toward that annexation. And I think it's probably being discussed again, but that's where more of our employees could live. And perhaps where we could attract an employer who would want to build their own stuff someplace. It's 885 acres. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And for those who don't know, Bill's referring to the state land department land near Thornydale and Tangerine out there on the west side of town. So I know that one all too familiar. Rosa, please go right ahead.
Yeah, so when we're talking about like housing, affordable housing and providing housing for employers and employers, I think for me, I look at the whole picture, like what are we trying to do here? Are we in need of employers and in need of housing, or are we basically saying we're going to expand Oro Valley? And then when you look at annexations like the 880, my concern is the location of that property close to Marana. I'm wondering if that would give us the return that we think we're going to get. Because I live in Rancho Vistoso, but if I know there's something I can't get in Oro Valley, I hang a right at the circle, head down more, and I'm in Marana in like less than a minute and a half. And if you're already in Marana, why would you come into the confines of Oro Valley to shop? So I worry about the discussion of the 880 for that reason, because the main reason to do it would be to benefit the town financially. So the whole conversation of employer and housing, I think needs to be taken into the context of what are we doing? Are we trying to grow? And then in the context of affordable housing, because I've been in quite a few of these meetings, in another meeting, the discussion ended with the affordability has a lot more to do with other factors than just the house. Like, what is affordable housing? And one of the real estate agents that was on a prior OV Path Forward meeting pointed out that a $500,000 house is affordable to someone making the average Oro Valley income, as long as they're not saddled with debt, like they don't have a couple Teslas. You know, and this is the problem in affordability. It also has to do with your finances and whether or not, you know, you can afford it from other aspects, not just the house. Because we were looking at average costs in Oro Valley and having a fuller discussion about that. So, you know, are we growing is my question. And I put that out there to anybody who has an opinion about that.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you very much, Rosa. And I see Kristen Sharp, you are first time hand raiser. Please go right ahead.
Hi, thanks, Michael. So Rosa, just to a little bit in response to a couple of your comments, I think the big one is economically, if you're not growing, you're receding. Just purely due to inflation, costs are increasing for everything. And so that means that we have to be growing just to keep up with the costs of services to maintain the same level of services that we currently expect. So yes, we have to always plan to try and grow. That doesn't mean we need to be like sprawling and bursting, but it does need to be a steady growth in order to keep up with those costs. Secondly, yes, there have been like surveys done to businesses, and overwhelmingly businesses have said that they do not have housing available, affordable housing for their employees, and that most of their employees don't live in Oro Valley because they can't afford to live in Oro. I mean, yeah, most people don't live in Oro Valley because they can't afford to. And that they would like to change that. And when we talk about affordable, yes, I totally get it. If you're saddled with debt, affordable looks a lot different. But to a person who is a young professional who has graduated with a 4-year degree and who now has a college debt to pay and is making that entry-level salary in a professional position, and they may be making $45,000 a month. And if the average rent of Oro Valley, if literally, I don't think I can find a rental in Oro Valley for under $1,000. They can't afford to live here, and they want to because this is, you know, I've have employees that can't afford to live here, and so you have to look at affordability for all different generations and levels of income and employment. But yes, businesses overwhelmingly have said, from small businesses to large businesses, even businesses like Roche and the hospital, overwhelmingly have said they do not have housing for their employees. And that is a common roadblock to recruiting new employees, is because they can't find a place to live here.
Okay, yep, thank you, Kristen. Appreciate that. Hal, one last thing on housing and then we can move on.
Yeah, I'll make a couple of points here. First of all, it came out in the Star this morning that legislation that's been pending in the legislature for the last couple of months called the Starter Homes Act. They may be making progress on compromise, and then the compromise apparently comes from the governor who vetoed an act that passed in the last session. Now she's, I guess, seeing that there may be a way to come to an agreement that most can agree on. I'm not sure about the cities and towns in Arizona, but her position now seems to be that for cities and towns over 30,000, which would of course include Oro Valley, you should allow on sites of maybe 10 acres or more, lots as small as 3,000 square feet. And other provisions regarding whether you need to have things like garages or fences and walls. So the state may, in this session, define for local governments like Oro Valley what affordable really means in terms of starter homes. So that's something to keep in mind. I want to go back to something that JJ said about people working from home or working remotely. When we're talking about housing, we're not just talking about a place for people to live. We're also, in some cases, talking about a place where people work. And so they do generate employment in a sense just by having housing. You don't have to necessarily do it in an industrial building or in a retail setting. And the other thing about residential is we can't forget that even if people who live in Oro Valley don't necessarily shop in Oro Valley, or they might shop in Marana, maybe they online are making purchases and having it delivered to their home in Oro Valley. So we're getting sales tax revenue. So residential can be a generator of sales tax without people actually going outside the home. And then finally, one of the interesting statistics in the background paper for this indicated that for residents over age 16 in Oro Valley, only 48% worked. Well, why is that? Well, because we have a lot of retirees in Oro Valley. 65 people over age 65 constitute about 34% of the population. Which is about double the percentage it is in Pima County at large, as well as the state. So there's a lot of retirees here. Another interesting fact is that, and this came out in a survey by an online website called Go Banking Rates. We probably already heard about this, that said that Oro Valley is the safest place for wealthy retirees in the United States. What does that mean? Well, it means that people are coming here with a lot of money to retire, and they're spending that money. They might have earned it elsewhere, but now they're spending their retirement benefits, whether it's from a pension or Social Security or IRA savings or whatever, and they're spending it in Oro Valley. So that's something I think that needs to be factored into any discussion about economic development.
Sure. Thank you very much, Alan. I think I'm getting behind on my time here, so we're going to have to keep moving, but I do see a couple new hands up for folks who haven't commented before, so I'm going to get to you guys real quick. Brian Anderson, you were first up. Please go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'll be quick, and it's not to lean one way or the other, but anecdotally, my partner and I moved here about 3.5 years ago, specifically for access to schools and the community. and we both work remotely. Now that's changing a little bit, but part of that is access to what Oro Valley has to offer. So I just want to mirror Hal's comment that, you know, having nice homes in a nice place is attractive to remote workers. And
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. And Ron D'Souza, saw your hand went up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yep. So just wanted to echo what Kristen Sharp said, that high rent prices in Oro Valley can be such a major obstacle to professionals living here, especially the graduates of our high schools, of the U of A that come from Oro Valley. I'm not sure exactly what the solution might be. I'm new to these meetings, but it's definitely something the town might want to look into, I'm thinking. So, yep.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to move on to transportation, but Rosa, did you have something real quick to add still on housing?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, we do have some housing in the pipe. I believe we have our housing needs through 2035, 40. I mean, I thought we had like 3,100 units in the pipe. We have like 700 plus apartments, and we have some other housing that's been approved but not yet built. So when I was saying, do we want to grow, I meant, do we want to grow like as in through major annexations? So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And JJ, I saw you had your hand up and now it went down. Did you have something real quick to add? Otherwise, I can move on to transportation. If he's still on, I'm not sure.
Michael, I just wanted to hitchhike on what Hal and others said about housing. And I did a lot of study about the freelance community about 6 years ago, because we moved here to be closer to our grandkids and we had clients all over the place. I did a study, and I don't mind sharing it with the CED staff, that in 10 years, we could, with local residents retiring early from engineering, Raytheon, U of A, other people like myself, if we encouraged them to start a home-based business or a co-located space, that would generate 225 new business entities and a payroll of $27 million. And that was net present value back in 2018. So just the sales tax to the town of Oro Valley from that would be almost $7 million. So entrepreneurs could be encouraged to work from home or in co-located spaces. They're not increasing the demand for new residential or even new buildings, just to have entrepreneurship in mind when we're having the discussions about talent attractions, kind of like bring your business to your house. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And that might bleed over a little bit into the collaborative spaces column here, but great point, JJ. Thank you. All right. So how about from a transportation perspective in terms of that's impact on economic development? Is there anything anybody would like to clarify in these comments here, or anything that should be added? Obviously, we've got Oracle along the east side, well, running up and down the east side of town, and Ina on the south, Tangerine on the north, and a little ways from I-10. But any thoughts that you guys might have from a transportation perspective on economic development at large? Right. Well, not hearing any. That's okay. I know SunTran is expanding, I believe, some of their service up this way too. So hopefully that certainly helps too. So how about from promoting Oro Valley's quality of life and safety? I know lots of folks have talked about the quality of life here. I think Brian brought that up specifically for coming here for schools. But also safety. Obviously, safety is a big factor for the town. So yes, Kristen, please go right ahead.
Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to point out that in the business survey that we received, the #1 reason businesses chose to locate here was because of safety. So I think it's definitely something we need to continue to capitalize on, and even use as a marketing tactic. I think it's super important to economic development especially considering, some of the other environments that are surrounding Oro Valley.
Absolutely. Thank you. Richard?
All right, there we go. I'm very slow on the unmute, Michael.
That's
I'll try to
okay.
be
No
fast,
problem.
Yeah, we need, in terms of safety, and this has nothing to do with our police department, we need to improve the safety of driving on Oracle Road. That's our main road. It's a state highway. People fly through this town quickly. There was a tremendous accident yesterday, and there always is in Oracle, down at McGee and Oracle yet again. Must be 100 accidents a year there. And we just need to fix the problem. It's just too fast, and it needs to be better patrolled by the state police, not just by us, because it's just a horror show on that road. And it's our #1 traffic problem in various intersections. So I don't know how to add that into the plan, but it's very important for us to fix it.
Duly noted. Absolutely. All right. Well, there were some other comments in here from our homework. Is there anything anybody else wants to elaborate on or get some clarity on? No? Okay. What about in terms of just the OV lifestyle? Oh, all right. Yes. I had a long enough pause. Bill, please go right ahead.
Yeah, I think that, when the economic development plan was adopted several months ago, one of the things that was in there with high interest was, in fact, the arts and cultural aspects. And I'd like to see that even in this economic development here. Those of you who work in that area, that is a major economic development. Now, sometimes that is something drawing tourists, like a performing arts center or something like that, but where 30% of the taxes are being paid by somebody from out of town. But I think I'd like to see us focus that it's in there, recognized as a real important. We think we have a great reputation for being in the cultural arts, but we've kind of lost it for a little while. And I think we need to be focusing again, especially quality of life. You're talking about the people who work out here. They are people who would like to see more cultural arts. They are people who are looking for that extra quality in their life out here and not just go to work and come home. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, great. Thank you very much. All right. Well, we're going to just keep pressing on. Talk about gathering or collaborative spaces. Obviously, Hal and JJ have both mentioned this, that obviously the nature of industry is evolving. It is ever evolving, of course. And so what are some things, if anything, to add or clarify here that the town can do in terms of fostering those types of opportunities as it relates to economic development? Yep, Brian, go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how the town will foster, but I can tell you there's going to be a shameless self-plug here, but I can tell you the desire and the demand for community spaces is quite large, to the point where my partner and I, who I said moved here, are actually in the process of opening a space in the marketplace to do such that, despite, whatever Oro Valley was offering or not offering. But I think the voices just aren't heard as much, but there really isn't a lot for, young people with families to do in this town. There's parks and it's great, it's wonderful, but just trying to create more of those third spaces available to people is huge. And the feedback that we have gotten and all the research we've done has been nothing but positive about more spaces like this. So watch for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great, Brian. Appreciate that, and appreciating you taking the initiative in the marketplace there. So should be some more foot traffic in that area here within the next year or so. So hopefully that helps them. So okay, Hal, yep, go right ahead. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the town is trying to create, in conjunction with the property owners, sort of a third place in the marketplace. Good that Brian's talking about opening a business there as well, but I think what we need to try to focus on is a more walkable environment, someplace where people can go and walk around like you have in maybe a Main Street environment. I'm not sure that what the marketplace plan shows is actually going to result in that, but it may head in that direction. But people want a place to go just to walk around. I mean, it's like 4th Avenue in Tucson. I think we need to have something like that somewhere in Oro Valley.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, a collaborative space isn't just necessarily a space to work together, right? It's gathering too. And okay, Ron, D'Souza, please.
Yep. So yeah, I just have to agree with both Brian and Hal here. Would definitely like to see more community spaces, especially for young professionals, young families. Just more things to do in general, especially things that might be open later. I remember in high school that there wasn't really much to do for me and my friend group, so we just like mob around to Walmart or something like that. So just anything to occupy our time would be something nice, I think, for the younger folks of Oro Valley.
You can still buy around.
Yes, my kids would agree with you, Ron, for sure. So
Awesome.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, if there's nothing else on gathering and collaborative spaces, how about in terms of attracting a quality workforce? I mean, we talked about job opportunities a little bit in trying to define who our high quality employers were, but what about that component of it of attracting a quality workforce? Yep, Kristen, go right ahead.
I heard it a couple of times, and I apologize, I can't remember who said it, but to the point where it kind of a little bit goes back to, is there a place for them to live? So the whole joke about, U of A is that they go straight from graduation to the airport, right? They're going straight out of Tucson. Well, let's be that welcoming community for U of A graduates. So that way we have a highly educated workforce here that businesses are attracted to. If they can't find a place to live, then they can't live in this community and bring their skills and keep them here. We spend years raising our kids here in Oro Valley and spending money on them through services and amenities and parks and all of the things in their education. Let's cultivate that and keep it here. So I think, again, it kind of goes back to having places for them to live.
Yeah, no, I think they're all intertwined for sure. Great comment. Thank you. Don?
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but where are you going to put them? The most affordable available housing right now is in Marana. Again, we simply don't have, and I know there is zoned spots out there that have not seen any growth on them whatsoever. But right now, we really do have a critical shortage of places of any place to put, quote, affordable housing, and that's why you see the population of Marana growing so rapidly, is because there's no place else to put these people. We have to wake up to the fact that if we want to attract good people, etc., we're going to have more space, and we're going to have more residences. Whether that's something that people like or don't like, if they want the positive outcome of the income, then they're going to have to allow more growth when it comes to population. It's simple math. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right, how about moving on just to keep us on time here? Obviously, some folks have already touched on the high quality schools and education out here. Is there anything in these comments that are listed here that need to be elaborated on, or anything that seems to be missing from the group? No? Okay, sounds good. So obviously moving on to the next column, it does kind of overlap with some of the gathering places conversation we already had, but in terms of amenities or things to do that can help impact and benefit economic development. What's the group's thoughts, and anything here that needs to be elaborated on or added to, or? Yes, Tony.
In terms of the Performing Arts Center concept, I think one of the things that as a group we have to discuss is the scope of something like that. If the desire is for just residents, then that would require, a more modest development of a facility. If it's to also attract outside folks and become a destination from the greater Southern Arizona or even the Phoenix area, that would be a major commitment and investment in space and resources. It would tie to the tourism component. And it's, again, the town, the residents have to figure out, what do they want? Is it something that is just for the community, or do we want to go big and invest in a facility that could be in a real regional attraction?
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much, Tony. Richard?
Okay, I did it that time faster. First of all, I'd like to say we got a lot of stuff already in this town that we ought to actually market really well. We got Narana Park, which we just built, and I'm not going to talk about the money, but it's a beautiful park. Riverfront Park is beautiful. We got a wonderful aquatic center, which hosted a massive 4-day event this weekend. We've got golf that we have just undersold locally and regionally, and we can do tournaments there. There's stuff we can do, we don't do. We got a lot. We got a Visoso Trails Nature Preserve, which needs to be built and stop fooling around with it. We have a relationship with a national park. We got a beautiful park here that the state runs. I think our problem isn't so much we need new stuff. And yeah, Bill, I know perhaps we do need some sort of cultural center, and I don't argue against that. I think that would be a fun thing to do too. But we need to optimize and maximize some of the things we have and really market the heck out of them and bring them, get some regional and national attention so people will come here and spend their money in Oro Valley. Then the question will be, will we have enough hotels? And I hope we get to the point where we have so many people coming here, we have to figure out where we can get more hotels.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, that would be a good problem to have from an economic development perspective for sure. So, all right, lastly, before we move on to increasing customers and filling empty storefronts in the next green category, what in this other column, is there anything that needs clarification, elaboration, anything that was missed? Just overall in terms of the purple category here for workforce and employer attraction and retention. Is there anything that should be added from the group's perspective? No. Okay. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate everybody's assistance on that one. Moving on to our second big topic here of increasing the customer base and filling empty storefronts. Why don't you guys go ahead and take a minute to read the first column here under research and business outreach, and then whenever anybody's ready, please raise your hand on any questions, comments, or clarifications you might see or additions. Yes, Bill, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I took a little nap there, but which one are we looking at?
I'm sorry. So there's 4 columns of comments here under research and business outreach.
Okay, okay. I didn't know whether we'd moved over there. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Yes, Brian, go right ahead.
Thanks. I'm just going to talk to my own comment there and just personal recent experience and something that I think would be low cost but highly effective. Like I said, my partner and I, we decided to open this business. She has an existing business and we're just expanding it and going cool places with it. But we didn't know what we're doing. We still don't know what we're doing. And really just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and learning everything as we go. And it's been a wonderful experience. It'd be really awesome if there was, or there were known, maybe they do exist, we're just not aware of them, resources with the town to help promote that kind of thing for first-time small business owners, or even, you know, anyone else that's interested in the subject matter, because it's a complicated, vast, deep process that we've been very lucky thus far that we haven't taken any wrong turns, right? So yeah, I think you could easily encourage that and bring people into the fold, but just a little hyperlink on the website. Maybe it exists. I'll take free help.
And lucky for you, we have 3 professionals here from our economic development department. So Margie, politely raised your hand. Please go right ahead.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, yeah, hi, Brian, nice to meet you and everyone else. Yes, I wanted to make sure that you're aware of the chooseorovalley.com site that was launched within the last couple of years ago as a one-stop shop for people bringing businesses here. It's a great resource. I'm also available to help. And my contact information is on there. So I hope you'll look for it, chooseorovalley.com. And it goes through lots of processes and lots of resources there for you to help. So thanks, Michael.
Well, we're going to be best friends, Margie.
Okay.
Careful what you wish for.
Hey, I'd be happy to help. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Margie. And I know, Kristen, I think you're with the Chamber of Commerce. It looks like Sarah Kaiser asked a similar question to Brian there. So obviously what Margie just touched on Choose Oro Valley as the website. But does the Chamber have a similar, outreach effort like that for small business owners trying to start stuff up?
We,
yep, okay.
Yep. So we, help provide guidance, and Brian, I've been working with your partner, and not specifically to Eller. We have those contacts if anybody needs specifically somebody to talk to in Eller. But no, that's a good idea actually, to like reach out and try to encourage those businesses coming from Eller to come into Oro Valley.
Sorry for those simpletons like myself. Can you just clarify? Eller is at the business school at U of A?
Yes, that is the business school.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure. Great. Yeah, thank you. And Margie went ahead and just put that website link in the chat too, Brian. So if you want to grab it from there, or whoever else is interested, please go check it out. It's a great resource. So, but great question. Yeah. So how about from a and yeah, thank you very much, Kristen. Appreciate that. Anything else you guys can think of from a research and business outreach function the town could be doing, or what could be added here to help kind of foster that, fill in those empty storefronts and attracting those high quality businesses? All right. Moving on, how about from mixed use projects is obviously another big category. So if you guys want to take a few seconds to go ahead and read some of these comments here, or if you're already reading ahead, good for you. You want to add anything, clarify anything, expand upon anything from a mixed use perspective? Or maybe we'll combine. Oh, yep, Rosa. All right. Thank you. Just in the nick of time. Thank you.
So I think the marketplace or village center, that obviously was a great move on the town's part by doing the rezone there and allowing the apartments and the hotels. The challenge is though, getting it built, because that was several years ago, and and a lot of people are asking, where are the apartments? When are we going to get more retail? But once those apartments come to fruition, I think you will see that area fill in. So similar concepts such as that, if there are any places left where a selective, mixed use rezoning would create that kind of synergy, I think is one way to boost the retail, which then in turn boosts our sales tax.
Great, thank you. Well, and fortuitous timing for that question, actually, Rosa, because the CED team is having a pre-construction meeting with Hampton Inn and Suites tomorrow, actually, before they start breaking ground there in the marketplace. So at least, and we're a little bit behind that timeline for the apartments, but at least the hotel is moving a little bit faster, and you should see some activity out there real soon. So that's definitely an encouraging sign. So Hal, please go right ahead.
Yeah, that's good news. I think the town staff might want to, if you probably are, but if you aren't, you should be taking a look at what Tucson is doing right now with basically providing alternative zoning for development along its major street corridors throughout the city. I have limited knowledge of this, but my understanding is, and of course, as you well know, under state law, you can't remove an entitlement once it's been granted under zoning. So you can't just, at least a city or town can't come in and say, well, we're going to rezone you from commercial to high density residential. But you can give them that alternative. Yeah, you can do commercial or you can do residential, which is what Tucson is moving toward doing. The council, mayor and council will probably take action on that at their meeting on March 18th. So that's something that there are vacant store spaces, that there are pieces of property that are zoned for employment or some kind of office development, which probably isn't going to be used for that purpose, at least in the near future. You might want to take a look at providing alternative zoning that would allow for other kinds of uses, specifically higher density residential development.
Okay, great one. That's a good segue to the next column, actually. So in addition to still talking about mixed use projects, are there things from a zoning or entitlement or development perspective that you guys see here in the list that maybe could be expanded upon, or are there things that are missing that can be done to help kind of, in your opinion, fill some of those storefronts or attract businesses? Yes, Kristen.
Okay, I am going to share some information that I have heard. Please do not shoot the messenger. I am simply sharing information. I have been told that when businesses hire planners to help them open businesses in Oro Valley, that there's what is called the Oro Valley tax, meaning the planners will charge more fees to open a business in Oro Valley because there's more hoops to jump through in terms of community meetings and presenting to council multiple times and different things like that. So if we could somehow make it easier, or I mean, I know like town staff does a fantastic job of trying to make the process smooth and painless. So I'm not really sure. Obviously, I'm not town staff, what could be done. But again, just kind of sharing something that I have heard from the business community.
No, thank you. Yeah. And we like that feedback. Obviously, we've got the economic expansion zone where we've certainly streamlined review and approval of applications, but I imagine they're obviously talking beyond just those boundaries to other commercial entities or whatnot. So, Bill, go right ahead.
Yeah, having been on council when we were moving down fairly quickly at what was the marketplace, now the village center, to see it grind to a halt for some good period of time because of the needs of the decisions for planning and zoning, but then obviously the town council. And I think to Christian's point, it isn't just staff. Staff is doing everything they can do, but it is we have the reputation in town being very difficult to get through. I like some of that. Having been on planning and zoning before town council, I understand why we have that and why it's important that we do it. But we have that reputation. And meanwhile, you know, the market, Jim Horvath and Town West, as well as HSL, who are involved in that project, they knew what they wanted. And we were going toward it with more hotel space and more apartment space, because that marketplace, when it was put in, was anticipating some population around it to be shoppers. And that simply has never existed and may never exist. So the idea of bringing the customers to the center and having them, you know, pay the taxes, and obviously having tourists and or business people come and stay in the hotels. And that just got slowed down so badly, including at the very end when we thought it was getting done. I shouldn't say we, those of us who watched it. The town felt that they needed to no longer support the recreation area, which was going to make the marketplace a little unique. I understand they had a reason, but that slowed us down again at the end, toward the end when we thought we had it. And so I just wanted to give the little history on it. I think the village center is still a very viable place if we're smart and we do bring customers there and we make it easy to open up businesses there. And we, you know, and it's a collaborative space. If we set it up, you know, it could be set up with that recreation area. There's a lot of things it can do, but we have to open our eyes and say, Foothills Mall can't be all wrong. They're doing what we said we wanted to do before the current decisions were made. If you've ever driven down La Cholla and looked to the right, just before you get to Ina, you see what it was that we thought we were going to build when I was still on council. Thank you.
There was a lot going on there for sure. We do have a first-time hand raiser in Sherry Colson, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and speak, and then I'll come back to Hal and Richard. If you can unmute at your end, please.
Unmute. There we go. Hello, everyone. I was just going to echo a couple of the other people tonight on the zoning and development of the marketplace. I personally have several friends that have been waiting to open businesses in the marketplace, but have just been, I guess, a little bit discouraged with just the processes. And I think they're waiting to see what's going to happen with the plan development before they make any moves in terms of renting space. So I think once the marketplace does move forward with hotels and the planned community gets more developed and underway, I think you're going to see those business spaces fill up rather quickly.
We definitely hope so. Yep. Thank you. Hal, please.
Yeah, just quickly to follow up a bit on what was said by Kristen and Bill and my comment about the Tucson alternative zoning. First of all, I was looking at the note. It's to provide alternative zoning on all corridors, not corners. So basically everywhere along a major street where you have commercial zoning, you can now do, or will be able to do higher density residential zoning. But the other thing about that in terms of process is if you meet certain design standards, there is no discretionary process. You're automatically approved. There's no public hearing. There's no public meetings. So I think that's pretty much where the marketplace is now, given they've got their plan approved. But I think looking at that in other locations is something that should be done.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hal. Richard?
I was quick on that one, Mike. I have my pen right on there. Three things. One, while we look internally and worry about the marketplace, and I'm all for it, believe me, we need to remember that the Foothills Mall is going to suck a lot of business from Oro Valley. When we went ahead as a town and we rebuilt La Cholla, which was a good thing to do because it was a mess, we have now created an expressway from the west side of our town directly into that mall. So one of the things we got to figure out is how to go back and try to annex that thing once it's built. We tried one time, it didn't work, but Bill probably knows more about that than I do, but we need to do something with that, because that's going to be a huge threat or a great opportunity if we could figure out a way to annex it. Secondly, we need to do something about zoning other than just on Oracle Road. There's nothing on La Cholla. There's no supermarket. There's nothing. We can't capture any of the retail there because they could just head down to Albertsons just as easy as they can go to Fry's or any of our stores. We've got to consider some sort of flexible zoning that gets more business on that road so that we can actually get things to happen there. So that's just a couple of quick thoughts. Just one other thought. I don't know if it fits here or somewhere else. There's 13,000 people live up in Saddlebrook. What are we doing to really bring them into Oro Valley? I know a lot of them come here already, but let's figure out a way to really make this Saddlebrook friendly and get those 13,000 down there all the time for all their trips.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much. Tony? Tony, you're still on mute. There you go.
Popped it on and popped it off. Sorry about that. Yeah, the town council has to deal with the conflicting, desires of the community. Yeah, with the marketplace, there was a big part of some of the qualifiers that I think have probably slowed it down is, some people still want to maintain a small town feel. So they objected to the original apartment design that had them closer in to the commercial areas with parking underneath. And then now the requirement is the more traditional garden style apartments like we already have in town. The idea of the hotel has to open before an apartment can open probably has something to do with the slow development of the apartment. So, and maintaining 2 to 3 stories versus 3 to 4 stories. I don't, promote one or the other, but the challenge with this exercise is trying to find, a compromise, a common ground where we can get the development and the commercial space, as Richard says, down La Cholla, whatever. I mean, what they're building at Foothills did not fit the small town feel that people wanted at the marketplace. And therefore, I think that's probably slowing down the developers, because what they're going to build may not be what young people want. And just,
Yeah, no,
you have to deal with that reality.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess, what I might encourage us to also just take the bigger picture of not just the marketplace. Obviously, that's the most pressing example of what we've got here, but are there things elsewhere in town where those things, like Hal might have mentioned, kind of the incentives for alternative zoning and corridors, something, yeah. So just kind of thinking beyond just the marketplace. Bill?
Yeah, and this is a little different, but it's also economic development in that, we annexed the Westward Look area about 2 or 3 years ago. It's probably longer than that because I always can't figure out how long things were. Anyway. However, there's also down in that same area, that whole commercial area, is a real I think we'd have a real good opportunity there to annex it, and that's all retail and sales tax paying things. So that's part of a bigger thing of looking for annexation opportunities that will help finance our town, but also bring people to work in our town and ultimately to live in our town. Thank you.
Yeah, the Casa Adobe stuff I know is definitely on the town's annexation strategy for sure. So, all
I
right,
just think we
moving.
need to talk about that there is such a thing, Michael. An annexation strategy. Most of us wouldn't know that.
Oh.
We just know what we see or happen to read and explore or the chamber newsletter. So thank you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, no, that's great discussion. Thank you. And very informative. How about, and I know this was kind of touched on earlier, but how about from a regional marketing perspective? What would you guys, is there anything to add or clarify or elaborate on here that, the town can pursue or take a look at to try and impact economic development from a marketing perspective? Rosa, please.
So in listening to the gap analysis discussion the other night, we need a Carvana or a Chick-fil-A, basically. That was what they basically came up with was, the analysis was very good to see where we were leaking in terms of retail and sales tax and such. But the challenge is, how do you address that? One of the biggest sectors was like having a car dealership, but you can't just have one because, people don't all buy the same car. So that's where the Carvana thing came up. And then Chick-fil-A, which is like the number one, like fast food restaurant everybody wants and would definitely overuse, so that's a challenge. But like my idea was maybe try to market or get a destination restaurant, like something that would have like a broader appeal.
I'm still listening to my town hall meeting.
Ooh.
A broader
on mute, please. Sorry.
broader appeal than just for Oro Valley residents. And that's difficult, but you only need one, and then it can really make a huge difference. But it's challenging. Because we are a town and we are of a certain size. Yes, we do have a lot of empty storefronts, but the only way to really you have to have a strategy, I guess. But I thought the gap analysis was pretty fascinating because it really brings you back to the same place. Like, now what do we do with this information? And that is that, people are going to shop at Home Depot in Marana if they can't get what they want in the Home Depot here, and we're going to lose sales tax, So you just have to kind of, deal with that reality. But I was thinking like a destination type restaurant, or to market the things we already have, like SACA, like we have 3 SACA festivals, and to market those with maybe the hotels that we have to get people to come in for the weekend. or the swim meets, which they have state meets and regional meets, and everyone has to stay in a hotel. And what I learned was that a lot of people stayed outside of Oro Valley because it's like $10 cheaper a night. But if those hotels knew that they were losing that business, would they bring their costs down a little bit or maybe sell a package? So those were the kinds of things I was thinking of to increase maybe some vitality and income. But to fill the spaces, we need a destination restaurant is what we need, something that people would come to.
Sure, and that's a great lead in. And honestly, the next big category we're going to talk about is tourism here. So that kind of leads into the next one of increasing our population and visitors to Oro Valley, right? Like what can be done collectively to get that foot traffic, that tourism dollars to come from outside the town and come in here. Bill?
Yeah, because I don't know the answer to this, as we dropped out of Visit Tucson and now I've hired Crystal to come in to market the town. If I understand her job, and I guess it's more of a question, is that her job? And is there a plan? And if not, when? Because that certainly is a major, could be a major marketing of the town.
Hey, yeah, great question. Did you either Crystal or whomever want to address that? You're only showing up as iPad, so I'm not sure who.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Oh, that's okay. Hi, Paul. Yeah, please
Hi.
go ahead.
So the easy answer is that's part of what Crystal does is she helps market the town, but she also has the other duties in helping all of us formulate strategies, and she does special events, applications and approvals and reviews. The other aspect that we're looking at is on Friday, we have our kickoff meeting for our leisure travel study. We're looking to develop a 5-year plan that answers a lot of the questions that all of you are asking or takes into the considerations what is been on the board. We anticipate that'll take approximately 6 to 8 months to complete that study.
Well, great. Thanks, Paul. And in case it wasn't obvious, that was Paul Melcher, our Community and Economic Development Director. So thank you, Paul. So how about in terms of increasing population and visitors to Oro Valley? Rosa already kind of touched on this a little bit. If you guys want to take a look at the comments that are there and just see if are there anything that's missing, anything you'd like to clarify, elaborate on, all of the above. And I can answer the question that Sherry Colson just put in the chat while you guys are reading. The question was, is Aldi still coming to Oro Valley? So the short answer is we don't know. So basically they reached out to us to basically look into potentially developing a site, and then we haven't heard back from them after we gave them some feedback on what it would what kind of changes they would have to do to make the site work. So that's kind of a non-answer, I realize, Sherry, but that's the latest that we know. Paul, I see you got your hand up again, or is it just left up?
Sorry, Mike, I just had left it up.
Okay, no problem. How about you, Bill? Did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, because although I've mentioned it before, or it's been mentioned by others in various places in this process, I think again if assuming we can find the right public-private partnership for the Performing Arts Center, and that would be a huge increase in visitors to Oro Valley. Again, we're not there yet, but I'd love to see that put in here as an opportunity. We have to get the feasibility study done to be sure that we can sell it, but we've already got a 501c3 formed with a board working on that. So it's not just a wish list, it's actually a possibility, and I think deserves to be on that list of how to increase visitors.
Okay. And I sorry, Malini, I saw you had answered a question earlier. Bill, you asked a question about annexation strategy. So sounds like annexation will be a topic during one of the development working group meetings in April. So make sure you're there if you're interested. Okay, all right. Well, with that, we're going to move to our last column out of respect for everybody's time. And so the blue column is tourism. So I know there's been a lot of veins throughout the conversation we've already had that kind of overlaps and ties into tourism. But in terms of promoting outdoor recreation and lifestyle, if you want to go ahead and take a minute to read those comments, and again, just let me know if there's any additions or clarifications or adds or elaborations. Great. Yeah, thank you, Sherry. I agree. So obviously in outdoor recreation and whatnot, we've talked about Naranja Park and Riverfront and Catalina State Park. The Loop, of course, is a huge amenity, right? So I'm not seeing any hands go up for promoting outdoor recreation and lifestyle. Obviously, the Performing Arts Center or Cultural Center has been a frequent topic here. If you guys want to take some time and go ahead and read that. Yes, Bill.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize because I hadn't gotten over to this column before I talked about the Performing Arts Center.
No
Although I
problem.
think it does fit in, that other column. But I would just underline those two or three columns of what it could mean to the town, and I think we just need to make sure it stays there. Whether we can, maybe it won't be feasible, or maybe it will, or maybe it'll take a longer time. Maybe we want to call some different. But we are down the line of a lot of support in this town. There's a lot of support among residents on the culture. We talked about that a little bit earlier tonight. So our residents like the idea of having that quality of life with the availability of not just the Gaslight Music Hall touring groups that also go up in Saddlebrook, but a much bigger audience attraction with headlining entertainment. So anyway, I love to see that all on there, and I'd like to make sure we keep a focus on it.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Kristen?
Sorry, and I was a little bit late on the raising the hand, so I'm going to go back really quick to promote outdoor recreation lifestyle and just give a
Sure.
quick update. I don't know if anybody knows that Catalina State Park, or actually all Arizona state parks, recently raised their rates from $75 to a $200 yearly pass. So I don't know how that's going to affect, how that's going to affect the number of people coming to Catalina State Park and then, staying and using Oro Valley restaurants and whatnot.
Something to certainly keep in mind for sure. Hal?
Yeah, just to add what Kristen just said, I believe the day pass has gone up significantly as well. I believe it's gone from like $7 a day up to $20 a day for cars. So yeah, that will have an effect, I would think. And maybe to piggyback on what Bill's been saying about the Performing Arts Center, one thing to keep in mind is, that would be a destination. That would be as a great restaurant would be, bringing people in from throughout the region. And you want to try to think about what kind of spin-offs you could have from a facility, an amenity like that. Where it's located would be, I think, a major consideration. You want to have other things in the vicinity that people could do or visit while they're visiting for the Performing Arts Center as well. So sort of a interplay of all kinds of different activities.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. All right. let's see. So anything else on the Performing Arts Center side? I'm not hearing any. How about from, I think Richard had mentioned this in terms of hosting tournaments, whether it's at the Aquatic Center or what? We're going to take some time to go ahead and read all those comments and let me know if there seems to be any omissions or additions that come to mind. Yes, Sherry, please.
I had heard at one point that there was a business that was going to open up indoor pickleball courts at the Oro Valley Marketplace. Is that a rumor or is that going to happen?
That is a rumor based in reality, as far as I know. They were going through the tenant improvement process for the old Best Buy building.
Okay.
I'm not sure what their anticipated open date. I'm not sure if Paul or Margie might have more info on that, but as far as I know, they're definitely moving forward for sure.
No, Mike, I would just confirm that. I don't know the exact date when they're starting on the tenant improvements, but they are moving forward.
Great. Yeah. So there's some more people being attracted to the marketplace too. So very cool. Great question. Tony?
A couple points. One about the tournament. Someone mentioned that big swim meet that was here this last weekend. The question I had when I saw all the cars lined up on Calle Concordia was, how do people know when something like that is coming to town? How are we coordinating with local businesses to welcome those families into town, to have maybe some specials, things, at some of the smaller places? Same thing with, tourism is recreational, but it's also, it manifests itself in other ways. Business groups, conventions, conferences, retreats. And, I happen to live close to the Hilton Resort, so I see, every week the different types of conventions and stuff. And I've always wondered why we don't have a little bit more coordination in the community to let small businesses, say, welcome to Oro Valley, come visit us, and so forth, to try to multiply the value of some of these type of things, whether it's the tournament or if it's a convention or whatever. I just a thought.
Sure. Well, I can maybe Paul or Crystal, anybody who wants to provide a little background on what the town does would probably be helpful.
Mike, if I understood Tony's question correctly, he's asking, what are the business connections with tournaments as they come in, and how is that
Right.
coordinated?
Trying to get the word out to the local businesses. Yep.
Yeah, so Mike, Tony, what we do is Margie will connect with those tournaments that we know of, or when they're looking for assistance. Oftentimes, the tournaments already have made the business connections they need to have a successful tournament. But otherwise, I think that'll also be developed as part of our leisure strategy, looking for a global way to incorporate all of what you said, a welcome to Oro Valley. How do you get this incorporated into all the businesses, whatever that looks like, if it's buttons, if it's tags, if it's whatever. So yes, that's one of the elements that we included in the scope as part of the analysis, and how we create one universal welcome wagon for Oro Valley.
Yeah, and just a thought in terms of even a temporary digital sign that says, welcome, swim association, so that not only are they getting the sense that they're being welcome, but our residents know that there's something special coming to town and so forth. Just some things like that. I think I may have mentioned one time I was walking at the state park and came across 100 Winnebagos, all the same type, that were camping in the group lot. They were there for 5 days. And I'm thinking, I wonder if any of the businesses, even in the marketplace, knew that you had 100 Winnebagos across the street, that you could have had some promotions and things for. It's that kind of intelligence and then getting the information out that I think can leverage this tourism strategy without, lots more advertising.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Good for conversation. And there was, before I jump to Rosa here real quick, Kristen asked a question about where there are places to host tournaments other than the aquatic center. I mean, I know there are, and maybe Paul, I should bump this to you, but I know Naranja Park certainly has the ability to do some tournament stuff on the fields that are there. Paul, do you have maybe some insight into or Margie? Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I wasn't going to answer that. I was going to go back one. So Paul, did
Oh,
you have something you wanted to
okay.
talk about that one?
Mike, the answer is it depends. So if you're looking for lacrosse and soccer and maybe some youth flag football, certainly Naranja Park carries the day on those. For softball and baseball, we don't have fields sufficient that would support a tournament level activity. And so then that's why we've looked, if you look for bicycling and other things, that's why we've looked to leverage Oro Valley's amazing streets and roads. And then we've also talked about, Jennifer Fuchs carries the tennis tournaments and she takes care of those, but we're looking into for pickleball and for golf as well as part of our lead generation.
Thank you, Paul, for answering my question. And so I think that's kind of like when people are thinking tournaments, they a lot of times are thinking of like soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, and we just don't have those facilities. So I might say that as, we are deciding on where to put money in towards parks, that we have an economic viewpoint towards it and say, okay, if we invest this much money in this park, then it will be able to provide income in the form of these tournaments, which will, help hotels and all of the things and residual. So I think if we have an economic eye when we're deciding where to spend money in Parks and Rec, that would also be helpful.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Thank you. And Margie, yeah, you said you were going to answer a question.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. No, I was going to answer the part about when he mentioned that, there were all of the people in Catalina State Park and we, didn't know about that. I think, we've been working really hard to try and build those relationships. So we are aware of any kinds of events that are coming. So then we are able to spread the word. We've got a very comprehensive list of restaurants in Oro Valley that we try to get out to all different kinds of people and, the apartments and resorts and all of that. So we also want to provide that to events coming in. So we're really working hard to build the relationship. So we are aware of some of those things because some are things that, they haven't had to work with the town on. So we do want to get that information and try and build that database and provide that to them. And really that helps support all the businesses. So thanks for that question though. And the thought. And
Yeah,
that's
thank
what
you
we're trying to
very
do. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Margie. Yep. Rosa, thank you for your patience.
Sure.
Go right.
I just wanted to chime in on the swim meet thing. I actually asked for the feasibility study to renovate the aquatic center because I did along with council member Bill Garner, did all the research to bring forth the idea that we had a 50 by 25 pool, but it needed to be modified in order to be a qualifying pool so that USA Swimming could have their meets there. This was back when my children swam. What I noticed was we were going out of town to Phoenix and it's always a 2-night stay because swim meets always start on Friday night. And there was always food purchased for the officials, and then also everyone had to eat in the local restaurants. So there's a set schedule for regional and state meets. So, and that's probably true of all sports. So just reaching out to the swim teams and asking them, will they host? Or would they host if the town, provided some incentive, and then and I can say that there aren't that many 50 by 25 pools. So that's why, it was to Oro Valley's advantage. Now, the downside of that is that you have sports tourism, and that kind of puts a dent in Parks and Recreation being an amenity for your community. It is often a complaint that you can't just go to the aquatic center and get a lane to swim because it's monopolized by the swim team. So there's two sides of that. So that would go to the argument that Parks and Rec we should always spend the money with the idea of how to bring money in. Maybe we should also spend the money to make an amenity that's good for the people who live here. But yes, I did have that mindset when I asked for that feasibility study, because the aquatics center that we have now was a mess. It was an old municipal pool, and it certainly needed to be renovated. But the upside of that was we could generate income with it. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bill, please.
When you talk about locations for tournaments, town owns a bunch of holes at the community center and across the street in Tony's neighborhood. And I don't know what it takes to attract. I don't know what changes would have to be made on the courses in order to be able to host, preliminary rounds for tournaments, or, even tournaments themselves. We also have the Oro Valley Country Club. If they could be coaxed into being part of that, which is probably even a better golf course. But I think we have it there, and it's a beautiful location, and it would bring in a lot of people for sure. And so I'd like to see us look at that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. All right. Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving on to working with resorts / local tourism. So if you want to take a quick second to read some of those comments, and again, see if there's any additions, omissions, elaborations, any of the above. No? Okay. All right. We can move along to target marketing. If you guys want to spin over there and take a look at some of those things. Again, any additions, omissions, clarifications? Yes, Tony.
Again, I come back to, it's all about internal marketing as well. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in Oro Valley. There's a lot of tourist dollars coming into town. How do we quantify it? How do we communicate it? How do we let the public know how tourism is already benefiting the town, and therefore get people to think about, well, what could we do more of to get these kind of outside dollars? The key to tourism dollars is people come into town, they leave their money from outside, and then they go home. It's great for Oro Valley, and I think we already have a strong tourism segment. I think I don't think people really have an opportunity to understand exactly how it does contribute to the town as much as they could.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. How about you, Sherry?
Yes, I hope I'm on the right track on this, but I know the Oro Valley Chamber puts out a Oro Valley mapping guide. I don't think they do the map anymore, but and Kristen, you can help me out on this. It goes out every year and it lists a lot of things to do in Oro Valley, and about 10,000 copies are printed and distributed amongst all sorts of businesses all over Tucson. And that has always been, I think, a very successful marketing tool. They put them up in Saddlebrook. They put them, in service stations, at doctor's offices. And I just think it's a great tool for to market restaurants in our area, to market hiking paths and all the wonderful things about Oro Valley. So I think that would be something that we should continue doing. And I don't think it costs a whole lot. But Kristen, I'll let you finish talking about that.
Thanks, Sherry. Yes, we do print the directory, and we print 25,000 copies that go all over Southern Arizona. And it is the best thing that we have to an Oro Valley Visitors Guide. So thank you, Sherry, for saying it's wonderful. I think it could use some improvement and could actually be turned into a visitor's guide. I think that's something that maybe CED is exploring to see if that is something that Oro Valley needs even. And so if that's a good spend of their money, or if we should just keep doing what we're doing as the chamber. But yes, it has a list of every single restaurant in and around Oro Valley, lots of businesses. It has articles on things to do. So yes, that could be part of the marketing, is making that a more robust publication that actually is a like visit Oro Valley. Currently, it really is just our chamber directory, and it's printed because we put all of our members in it and then distribute it. So it's a benefit of membership. But yes, it could be developed into something more.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, always looking for improvement, right? So why not? Okay. Well, I don't think I see any other hands up for targeted marking. So is there, before I kick it back to Miss Sims, is there just anything in any of these three categories that anybody here, especially anybody who didn't raise their hand yet, want to maybe touch on one last time or elaborate on or add anything? Bless you. Hal?
Well, this may be off in a different direction, but going back to the earlier discussion about bringing jobs into the community, I am retired, so I spend a lot of my time at home. And when we bought our house about 7 years ago, it was 25 years old and it needed some work. So we put some money into it. We put new windows in. We put solar panels on the roof. We did a lot of work in the bathrooms. We had a lot of work done. We spent a lot of money. We're still working on it. But the folks that did that work installed a new HVAC system. None of those folks are based in Oro Valley, as far as I know. We had a guy out here to do maintenance work on our HVAC system, spent about $1,000 on that. And again, he comes out from outside of town and goes back to his office outside of town. So there's a lot of money being spent for residential based services, roofers, HVAC, painters, all that stuff that just leaves the town. And so I'm just trying to figure out, is there something that the town could do to at least get some of those folks to be based in Oro Valley, to bring those jobs into Oro Valley rather than having them come in here from someplace else and leave?
Sure. Yeah. No, great comment, Al. Thank you. And I will point out, Crystal also mentioned in the chat that another great resource like the map that Kristen talked about is the Explore OV app that we recently launched to much success. So looks like the link's there in the chat if you'd like to take a look at it. So Ms. Sims, unless you'd like me to keep going in another direction, I can, but I would happily turn it back to you. And thank you everyone for your thoughtful conversation and informed commentary tonight. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spaeth. So just zoom out so you guys see all your hard work you did this evening. I also want to mention that the OV Business Navigator is also a great resource to find businesses in Oro Valley. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for adding that into the chat. So lots of great comments. Appreciate the discussion this evening. Just to kind of wrap us up this evening, the next meeting will be March 25th. That is a Tuesday. And during that meeting, what we'll do is we'll take everything we heard this evening, again, pair it with the legal requirements and what we heard over the past year to draft some goals, policies and actions to discuss with the group and make sure they accurately reflect all the guidance that we're given. With that, if there's no further comments, we will go ahead and tell you have a good night, and thanks again for being here this evening.